Psychopaths are notorious killers. They have no empathy. They derive pleasure from taking another person's life. They are the ultimate evil, masquerading as a human being. Or at least, that's how movies and most other fictional media make them out to be. Due to the popularity of this particular trope, the word psychopath or psycho is thrown around very lightly whenever the topic is brought up upon a discussion. However, what most people don't know is that a psychopath, psycho, or sociopath does not scientifically exist. Well, at least not anymore. What do I mean by that? Well, the term was used in the 1900s when doctors would describe their patients that seemed to have some sort of moral depravity as psychopaths. However, what the term actually refers to was never clearly defined, until eventually in the year 1980, a disorder that describes the overall implications of a psychopath was described under the name of antisocial personality disorder, or ASPD for short. So what actually is antisocial personality disorder? What it is, practically, is the term we should instead be using whenever talking about psychopaths. I figured to better understand this, we should take a look at one of the so-called psychopaths portrayed in fictional media.
I'm gonna ask you again, have you seen that tape?
I saw the tape. Yeah, of course I saw the tape.
God damn it, I told him to get that tape.
If you're into courtroom movies like me, you might have stumbled upon a little-known movie called Primal Fear. It is a wonderful piece of fiction, and for those of you who haven't watched it, you should pause this video right now, do the movie justice, and come back to this analysis. Now for the rest of you who actually have good taste in movies, or if you're someone who doesn't mind having a great movie ruined for them, well please get comfy and continue on.
So where were you with the truth?
Truth? How do you mean? Naomi!
I'm not sure how many ways there are to mean it.
You think there's only one? I can't do this.
You're late.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, you're right, There is only one that matters.
Marty, hold still, please.
My version of it. The one I create.
Our story revolves around Martin Vale, a big shot attorney who is extremely good at what he does. One day, he witnessed the arrest of an altar boy suspected of brutally murdering the Archbishop, Bishop Rushman. His fingers were cut off, his eyes gouged out. It was a mess. The suspect was arrested on the spot while covered in blood. So all of the evidences pointed toward him being the killer. But our boy Marty here, being the narcissistic, self-worshipping prick he is, decided to take his case pro bono just to prove to us that he can. Now here's where we're first introduced to our psychopath, or should I say victim of ASPD, Aaron Stampler. Aaron at first sight seems like nothing more than a scared young boy. He stutters while he speaks, and it doesn't seem like he's capable of even harming a fly.
No, sir. I'd surely be grateful for anything you could do for me.
You're welcome. Now, your full name is?
Aaron Luke Stampler.
However, that later changes when we eventually learn that Aaron calls upon Roy, his other personality, whenever he is mentally cornered. Looking at how prone to violence Roy is,
Hey, this is my cell, Jack! Who the fuck are you? I got you now. You're the lawyer.
it made sense for us to assume that, it's Roy doing the killing the entire time. But B, I thought this video was about antisocial personality disorder, not multiple personality disorder. Well, my child, if you were more patient, then you would have let me finish. So it turns out that Aaron was faking it the whole time. This was the ultimate twist of the movie. Roy was nothing more than a character Aaron created to fool everybody into thinking that he's just an innocent, sick child and capable of doing something as grotesque as a murder. There never was a Roy, or I guess as he himself put it,
There never was an Aaron, counselor.
So Aaron committed the murder all by himself. This tendency to manipulate others around you in such a convincing manner is actually one of the symptoms of ASPD. Aaron played everybody in the movie. His own defense attorney, the judge, his psychiatrist, well, basically the entire legal system, right? This degree of deceitfulness is only possible coming from someone with ASPD. Now, there are two fundamental symptoms when it comes to diagnosing someone with ASPD. The first one is the individual being extremely self-centered. We can see this with Aaron from the start. All of his actions are motivated by his own self-interest. He showed no concern for the well-being of others, which explains why he has no problems brutally murdering Bishop Rushman. The second fundamental symptoms of ASPD is the tendency to have impairments in interpersonal functioning. What this means is just that Aaron would have a pretty hard time feeling empathy for others. Not only that, he would also not be able to form a proper reciprocally intimate relationship. This explains why he is able to keep up the act for the entire movie. Aaron showed no concerns whatsoever for even those like Marty, who is actually genuinely trying to help him. Now, a lot of the complaints that this movie had was that it was not realistic, as in there's no way that a 19-year-old kid like Aaron would be able to fool an entire system like that. But I say when you consider all the symptoms of someone with ASPD, everything makes sense. People with ASPD tend to be risk takers. They would engage in potentially self-harming activities in order to do something as mundane as alleviating boredom. What this implies is that they're braver than the average man. Aaron definitely had no problems being under pressure of getting into the death row, because this is just the sort of risk-taking behaviors that he would do. He didn't feel like it was anything out of the ordinary. Because of this twisted sense of security, he's able to manipulate those around him and not stress himself out doing it. In the end, because of Marty's legal expertise, Aaron is off the hook by plea of insanity. After revealing himself as faking it the entire time to his attorney, Aaron taunted Marty, provoking him by deliberately calling them a great team and how thankful he is having him for a lawyer. The callousness Aaron shows here is another symptom of ASPD, taking pleasure in the harmful effects one's action has upon others. Marty, bedazzled by all of this, just walked away, unsure of what justice even is anymore. You know, witnessing all of these violent portrayals of ASPD does make one wonder, what causes this? How can a person be capable of such levels of violence with that level of detachment from it? Well, as for now, the cause, or what we would call etiology in psychology, isn't clearly defined. There has been implication of both genetic and environmental causes leaning toward genetics, which I think really raises the question, if it is genetic, should they be held accountable for their actions? If they had no control over their condition of having ASPD, is it ethical to lock them up in prison? Should they be treated as patients instead of criminals? Or should they still be incarcerated because, well, taking another person's life is definitely a big deal? What are your thoughts? Comment below, give me a good discussion. All in all, I made this video to clear out a common misconception of the term psychopath. By now you should know what a psychopath is, or rather, what it isn't, and be able to identify symptoms of ASPD. As always, if you enjoy this and would like more psychology and fiction, be sure to subscribe, helps me out a lot. You can also check out my other videos up here if you want, or I don't know, stick around, chill in the comments, I don't care. Anyway, thanks for watching, and have a great one.
It's not a game, I'm not a robot.